All right, everybody, welcome. This is Don Martin, and I just want to welcome everybody to this week's Motives interactive workshop. And today we have a very exciting video and interactive training for you with makeup artist and master coordinator Maleeva Epperson Langle. I'm going to use all your names, Maleeva, and she's going to give you guys a tour on some cosmetic applications around the eyes. So I'm going to turn it over to Maleeva, and she'll have a fun time with you all.
Awesome. Thanks so much for the intro, Don. Well, welcome everybody. I'm excited for you to be tuning in live, and for those catching the replay. Like you said, my name's Maleeva. I'm a freelance makeup artist. I work in the film and television industry, but I also do a lot of one-on-one beauty consulting with women in business. And so one question I get often is how to do makeup for hooded eyes. I myself have partially hooded eyes, and so I'm happy to show you my application. But last week when we were talking with the ladies, they had asked if we could do some more eye makeup looks, and they wanted to see one natural eye and then one glam eye. And so that's what I'm going to be doing for you all today. I do have backgrounds just to, for my own personal jam session while we go on here. So if at any point it becomes too loud, someone just say something. Okay, I'm just scrolling to where I can see my face a little bit bigger. Hey, Miriam. Okay, here we go. So the palettes I'm going to be working off, I'll quick talk about the products and then we'll get started. So first, I'm going to be using an eye base, and this is all from our brand. So it is a one-tone, one-size-fits-all type product. It is a cream base, but when you put it on, it kind of self-sets as a powder, so it has a really light consistency on the eye. What I really like about this eye base is that it feels nice and light. It doesn't feel like creasy or Vaseline-y or greasy like a lot of primers can feel. And you can use it alone or underneath your powders or shadows. So you can use it alone and just help your eye look a little bit more awake and put a little face powder on top and or you can use it to help with your powders. And eye base is really important, just like we're gonna prime a wall or prime our face before we add foundation. We want to put an eye base on. One, it's gonna neutralize the color of our eyelid so that any colors that we use show up true to color on the eye. It also is going to help minimize any oils in our eyelid to keep our product from caking, creasing, settling, flaking throughout the day, which is really important. And the other thing it does is help the product last longer. So there you go. That's great about an eye base. So I'm going to be using an eye base. Two palettes that I'm going to be working off today are our iconic Motives palette. I like this one because it's a trifold of neutral colors. So you have a bunch of nice neutral colors there. While they're powder eyeshadows, they're still very creamy, very like malleable, very blendable, which I really like about these colors. So it's kind of like a great starter pack for somebody. But I like it also because it has two blushes, like a contour bronzy shade and then a blush shade, and then 4 glosses that have kind of a satin finish. A lot of times when you get kits that have lip gloss products in it, it's usually like a throwaway product and feels like wax. All of our palettes have really nice satin feeling lip glosses, so they're great for on the go. So there's no throwaway products when it comes to our kits, which I like. Plus it says hello gorgeous, so it's like a little affirmation. It makes me feel good every time I open it. So that's the one I'm going to be working off for the day. And then when we turn it into evening, I do have the Element palette. I wanted to bring this out. This one is so old. I've had it for like 7 years. So it is beat up for sure. There's like a bunch of colors missing out of it. But I love this palette because it has 4 neutral shades and then 4 kind of more into the color shades. And they're also matte and then slightly shimmer, but none of them are glittery. So you can use every single one in this palette. I only have 4 or 5 working eyeshadows out of this because I like beat it to crap, but I love, love, love this palette. I also wanted to incorporate this palette because I believe most of you with your starter kits received this palette. So you kind of get to see how it works. But I tease people, if this is the only thing they ever buy from me, I'm not going to see them for 5 years because this palette lasts forever. I love, love, love it.
Can the palette be refilled?
I'm sorry?
Can the palette be refilled?
No.
Okay.
No. They're size of blushes though. So I mean, sometimes you work through one color more than others. But yeah, for the most part, it's $42 retail, and I think $34, $35 our cost. So I mean, it's worth it just to get a new palette. But usually you run out of more than one color first. Like you see 1, 2, 3, like I have 4 missing. So for me, at some point, I'll just like get a new palette. But I think you can pop them out if you want to keep some of the products. So get a whole new palette, but then you can use some of the excess. Okay, so then lastly, I'm not quite sure if I'm going to use it or not, but I pulled it out. Our Little Black Dress Gel Eyeliner, which is a top selling product. This is like the blackest of black when it comes to eyeliners, which is why people love it so much. It is also very water resistant. So this is great for, you know, you using it on yourself, but also if you're a professional makeup artist and like to use it on clients, this is great for bridal and all of the colors. This is probably the only eyeliner that I use probably 85% of the time. I really do like this one. Since it is a gel, you'll need a brush to apply it. And then lastly, just my favorite mascara. Our Fiber Lush mascara, which I talked about in the These Are a Few of My Favorite Things video. All right, let's get started. So when it comes to eye base, especially ours, less is best. Almost like if you see it, you've put on too much. So because I have more oily eyelids, I like to use a brush to apply mine. I'm not opposed to fingers as long as they're well sanitized. But we can have oils in our fingertips, and if we have oils on our eyelids, sometimes that can just exacerbate the issue. So I'm going to put it on both sides. My left side, so what is that, your right, is going to be my natural eye, and then your left, my right eye is going to be the more glam look. But I'm going to put eye base on both. So I start with, whenever I'm applying product, I start with the larger surfaces of any area. So for example, like my eyelid's going to be the larger surface. And then I like to feather it up and out. Reason being is that you never want to be like tugging down or really tugging outward on the eye. So I like to feather up and then just slightly outward, so you can see I'm not really moving my skin too much. And I like to go into the inner corner of the eye as well, just to help brighten that up. And like I said, you can barely see it. Less is really best when it comes to applying this product, because if you do apply too much, it can crease throughout the day. Okay. And since I'm going to be using some of my shadow underneath my eye, I like to pick up a little bit of eye base and line underneath my eye as well. Hi, Leah. Because if I'm going to be putting powder underneath the eye, I want to prime that area as well to help it show up true to color. And this helps, so sometimes we get a little bit red or a little bit of a different tint underneath our eye, so this kind of helps color correct that too, and it might minimize the appearance of that for the shadow. Okay. Another brush I have is just kind of like a fluffy brush. I'm going to use this a lot of times because it's also a great blending brush. I'm going to take the Iconic palette, and what I always like to do is I put eye base on, and then I like to set the eye base. So I'm going to do that with the lightest color in my palette, which is this one here called Mogul. Just going to pick up a liberal amount, and no crazy technique here. I'm just going to set my eye base. Whenever you use a cream or a liquid, you need to set it with a powder unless it self-sets. So this is going to help me create my powder look. And like goes with like. So if you're creating like a powder eye look, it's easier to do on powder. So when I set my cream with powder, I'm now turning the consistency of that into a powder, which is now going to be easier to create a powder look. Like goes with like. Okay. All right, I'm going to do a little bit underneath the eye too, where I put that eye base. Okay. So next is where I'm going to go into my transition shade. And with hooded eyes, it depends on how you want your look to be. A lot of people like to minimize the appearance of a hood. And by hood, I mean that I have skin that sits on top of my eyelid so that when I open my eyes, you don't really see a lot of my eyelid. That's what I mean by hooded. Deep set is a little bit different. If someone's brow bone almost seems a little protruding and their eyes seem a little bit further back, that's more of a deep set eye. So for me, I'm going to take a transition shade, A transition shade really is any color that's maybe 1 or 2 shades darker than your natural skin tone. And what that's going to do is transition whatever color or whatever product you use on your eyes to whatever color you're going to use on the brow bone. So I'm kind of throwing like technical terms out there, but just so that everything looks kind of blended and cohesive versus it being like color, color, color. So I like these nice medium colors. So this one works great. Or if you're using the Element palette, a color for you would be Native, which I'm almost out of. It's that one there. So it's kind of a little bit more of a warm taupey color. Whereas the one from the Iconic palette's a little bit more neutral. So I'm going to start on the outside and work my way in. I like using circular motions because it helps blend the product in. And you can see I have a very light touch. I'm not jabbing my eye. And I'm just kind of working that product into my transition shade and into the right above the crease, like the crease and a little bit above. So for me, the only color that's going to go above this one is going to be my highlights color. So I'm going to work this one in pretty liberally. And right now I'm just focusing on my day look. So you can start to see as I'm working it in, it's minimizing the appearance of the hood. Just think, whenever we're doing something that's darker than our natural skin tone, it's going to act as a natural contour. Whenever we're using something lighter than our skin tone, it's going to act as a natural highlighter. Highlight brings lift and attention. Contour or darkness kind of creates shadow and takes attention away from. So don't just think of contour and highlight as shimmer or dark. It's really about your color of your skin. Obviously, like if you took me and Vershante, for example, a contour color for me would be very different than a contour color or highlight color for her. And now don't feel like you can only use this color and that's it. You can never come back to it. As you start working with color and kind of putting your eye look together, feel free to go back and forth between colors and add or blend as necessary. So I'm going to leave that alone. And if you can you see me okay? I seem kind of small on my own screen. So I don't know, should I move closer or can you see me okay?
I think you're okay.
Good? Okay. Perfect.
Yeah, I mean, you're okay as far as on my phone screen.
Oh, good. Oh, good. So I'm working from my phone screen, but I know sometimes like I'm talking and see all of you, but I'm talking to you and I think on your end you see me big or you can see me big. Whereas if I scrolled over, I'm seeing Aaliyah. So, okay. As long as you all can see me, we're all good. Okay. So that's the color Legend in the Iconic palette, and that's going to be my transition shade. Pretty simple.
Which palette is that? I don't have that one, I don't think.
That's okay. If you have the Element palette, you can work off of the Element palette.
Yep.
Perfect. I'll use that. How about I'll use that one for my Glam Eye? That we can kind of do a glam alongside me. But the color I just placed for me, Aaliyah, you would use the color in Native from the Element palette.
Okay, I'm gonna take a look at that.
And that's a nice transition shade.
Okay. I have one question about the kit. Yeah. I thought I heard somewhere that there should be 2 different little jars like this. They're exactly the same. Is that right? Or is there supposed to be 2 different ones? They both say
what do you
black
have?
dress gel eyeliner. They both say little black dress gel eyeliner. Is it normally 2 of the same?
No, you should have an eye base. So we'll have to call the company and just let them know to send you out an eye base.
Okay.
Yeah, they
look
look
I have
the
to
same.
email them back. I have okay, yeah, I have something else that had leaked in the box, so I need to send them a picture of that, so I'll tell them that too.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, they're really great. If you just call, they'll always just ship you a new one.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, of course. Okay, so for next month again, I personally kind of keep it pretty simple during the day unless I need to look like super made up. And that's one of the reasons that I like either of these palettes, because you can achieve just a nice, easy, simple day look, and then you can really glam it up for the night, depending on kind of what colors you're going for your glam. So for me, in this Iconic palette, there's a really pretty color called Queen, which is kind of like a medium shimmery gold color, Whenever you're going to use shimmer, you want to keep that color to your eyelid, because when you open your eyes, it's what you're going to see less of. A lot of times people are scared of like shimmer or glitter, because if we put it up too high, then it's kind of like, whoa, someone got smacked with a disco stick. So that's kind of like a rule when it comes to color. I shouldn't say a rule, but like a guideline when it comes to color or glitter. If you're kind of worried and you're new to it, just keep it to your eyelid. It's called the mobile eyelid, which is just the skin above your eyeball. Because when you open your eyes, you'll see a minimum amount of that. And so that's kind of a great way to play with either shimmer or glitter. If you're using the element, one that I recommend for this step would be Serene. And it's kind of this taupey shimmer color.
That's pretty.
And this is what I would use if you're using this color on my entire mobile lid. So I'm going to use the same brush and take this pretty shimmer color. And instead of like swiping or doing circular motions like I did before, I want to pat on the color. So I'm going to pat it into place. And now you can start to see that gold. Isn't that pretty? That gold shimmer starts to pop.
Mm-hmm.
And this is light enough too that I can use this in the inner corner of my eye as well. So feel free, you don't just have to use a white or pearl shade. You can use a matte light shade or even like a light gold. Okay. And then even though I used Mogul to kind of set my eye base, I'm going to go back in with a little bit more of it right underneath my brow bone. So we want to focus on, when we do our light colors, anywhere we want to create lift. A lot of times we want to put lift underneath our brow bone to make our eyes look nice and lifted. And so this is where you would put your lightest shade. Now, if it's going to be shimmery, I recommend getting a smaller brush, like a detailing brush. And if I wanted, see how small that is? And if I wanted to put a little shimmer, like I could use this queen color, that's shimmery gold. I would take a little bit and almost draw a line right under my brow bone to create a little lift with shimmer. But I find a lot of times people take their like super frosty light color and do their entire brow bone in that, and it almost looks a little draggy, which we want to look like classy and lifted and not like, whoa, we're going to the club or we're straight out of the 90s, right? 90s was all about frost. And so a great way to still use those shimmer light colors is just to create a small line and hug underneath that brow bone. So you still get that lift, that shimmer, without the huge streak of color. Okay. Now for a daytime smoky look, if I still wanted it to be simple, like you could leave this alone, throw on mascara and go. I'm going to smoke it out a little bit for the day. And so I'm going to go in with the same palette, this color called Influencer, which is a nice medium matte brown. Same brush. Notice how I'm using the same brush throughout. Like if I went dark and then needed to go back in with my light, I would either clean this brush or use a different brush because I don't want to muddy that light color. But since I'm going light to dark, I just work with the same brush. So I'm picking up a little bit of product. A little goes a long way with our shadows. They're very, very pigmented, so less is best. I'm going to pat the color, almost creating a little bit of a contour on the outer corner of my lid. So I pat and then I blend. I pat and then I blend. So from here, I'm just going to start blending in small circular motions up into that crease shade that I did, just to blend those two colors together. I always like to say, when in doubt, blend it out. And I want to take this same color and I want to sweep it underneath my eyes. I very rarely use an actual eyeliner underneath my eyes. A lot of times people do like a sharp line, and unless you're going full glam with lashes, that tends to make the eye look a little bit smaller and drag it downwards, which we don't want to do. So when I do eyeliner, I like to stick to the line on top of my lash line. Underneath, I like to use shadows because it still makes the eye look finished, but keeps the eye nice and open. So same brush. And I'm just going to sweep that color right along my lash line. And I like this to be a nice thin shade. Some people I see kind of go too thick with it, and then it drags the eye down. So we just want a nice thin shadow line. And then I'm just putting the excess on the outer corner of my brow. And then sweeping whatever's left into my transition. Okay, so that's my eye look. I'm going to finish with liner and mascara for the daytime, but pretty simple, right? Just a couple steps, couple colors. Anybody could do this in 5 minutes or less as part of their makeup routine. So I'm going to go in with my little black dress and this detailing brush. You can use an angled brush. I'll be honest, I don't like using angled brushes for eyeliner unless I'm doing like a cat eye. Reason being is that the detailing brush is the same shape symmetrically, so it's nice and rounded, whereas an angled brush is like taller and more angular at the top and then shorter at the bottom. And I find it harder to wiggle eyeliner in place when you have a non-symmetrical brush. So I like this detailing brush because it's rounded, almost like a tiny, tiny little Q-tip, and I can wiggle the product back and forth. And so that's why I like a detailing brush for applying eyeliner. Unless, like I said, if I'm gonna do a wing, then I might use an angled brush to kind of help me almost stamp the placement of the wing. And if you want to be nice and natural, don't feel like you have to do one line perfectly and that's it. Like, just think about creating little dots and then connecting the dots. So I'm going to lightly lift up on my eye. I don't like to pull out. That's bad. We create wrinkles. We don't want to do that. So we're going to lightly lift up just so I can see kind of the base of my lash line. And then I'm going to wiggle the product right along the lash line. And this is going to help bring some definition to my lashes. It'll also help bring some lush and thickness to the look of my lashes. And then when I open my eye, I just have a little bit of definition, but I don't have like one thick long line going across. Not that that's bad, but I think that that can be intimidating for a lot of people when doing eyeliner, especially using like a liquid or a gel. So feel free just to create little wiggling motions right along the lash line. And then I'm looking in my big mirror here too, just to make sure I'm like not messing anything up, but I could also pull this one over. And then I just connect it right in the inner waterline. Now that's just an extra step. Don't feel like you have to do that if that makes you uncomfortable, but I just kind of look out. So I'm not looking right at my brush, and I just connect that line. So now it looks like I have one nice, even, thin line, even though it wasn't one step. I was just kind of wiggling the product back and forth, almost like tracing. Okay, there we go. And from here, I would just toss my mascara on, which apparently I'm like super muscular all of a sudden because I like cracked the lid of my mascara. Who does that? I'm like, holy cow, Hercules. I've found this folk station. I tell Alexa just to play me like soothing music, and it plays this like modern folk station, and I really dig it. Kind of makes me want to sip some lemonade out of a mason jar on my porch. Okay, so my trick for applying mascara is I like to tilt my head back so I can see the base of my lash, and that keeps me from also wrinkling my forehead, which we don't want to do. So I tilt back, I get the base of my lash, and I wiggle up. Wiggle up. And if you ever get a situation where like it applies a little too much in any one area, then you can take that brush that nobody knows what to do with, that looks like a comb. This comes in like every kit and everybody's like, what the heck do I do with this thing? You can use that to comb the lash, and that'll like even them out, separate them, and also help if you happen to get any clumps. This is on its way out, so I need to switch my mascara. So it's just like combing out a tangle. Ta-da! And for the daytime, obviously, honestly, I don't usually wear mascara underneath. So I'm going to leave it alone. I feel like this also helps my eye look a little bit open because I have smaller eyes. So by lifting the top and leaving the bottom alone, it's kind of creating a little bit bigger of an eye, which, can you see the difference between my two right now?
Yes, yes, you can see the difference.
Makes a difference. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. Any questions on, this is my day look. Any questions on the day look before we move to glam? Thank you. This is honestly probably what I do 90% of the time. I'll either use our cream lip and cheek palette, or I'll just use these colors, throw it on, call it a day. I had my brows.
When you look down, how you see the light, I like that.
Isn't that pretty? And it's just a hint of it. I mean, I could pull it up a little higher if I wanted to, but for the most part, I just want to like make my eye look a little bit open, make the hood look a little less visible. And I think this kind of does the trick for that. And I'm not even wearing foundation right now. I'm like wearing no makeup other than my eye makeup. I just took a tad bit of concealer and I have a pimple on my chin, so I concealed that. But other than that, I'm just wearing eyes right now. So you can see how this eye look, a little bit of powder or your liquid foundation and like a lip gloss, and you're out the door. It doesn't really take a lot to doesn't take a lot to look put together. Wow, that was a mouthful. Okay.
I have a
So
question.
now let me move over to glam. So I did my eye.
Maleeva.
Yeah.
Well, before you do that, I have a question about the eyeliner.
Yeah.
When you're putting it on the inner corner,
Mhm.
I have a tendency to usually hit like the side of my nose. How would I avoid doing that?
When you're using eyeliner?
Yeah.
So when you're using eyeliner, you don't really want to go all the way to the inner corner of your eye. Like if you
Okay.
saw what I did, I took my detailing brush
Okay.
and I looked up and over, and I was just like not in the tear duct, but at the very first eyelash is where I stopped. Like, so there's no
Okay.
reason for you to going all the way into your tear duct. And then even there, like it's still kind of far off to be hitting your nose. So I would think one of the best things to do is make sure you don't have a lot of product on the brush, but stick towards where that first lash is versus coming
Okay.
all the way to the inner corner.
Okay. That's a big help. Thanks.
You're welcome. Okay. So I already have my eye base on, and I already set that eye base with a nice light cream color. So now I'm going to go full glam. So for here, I'm going to go into the Element palette. Warning you again, mine is like really beat up because I've had it for like 6 or 7 years. And I'm going to use this Native shade, which is a little bit more warmer of a crease color. And I'm going to use the exact same technique. And then I start with the outside and I blend inwards, kind of upwards and inwards following that crease. I've heard people say like windshield wiper motion too, which you can do. I like the control of seeing how it's blending as I go along, which is why I use smaller circular motions. Now I'm going a little bit higher because this is a little bit more of a glam look than I did on my other one. So I'm almost hitting, like hugging the underneath of the brow bone with this color. And by creating kind of more of an open curvature, I'm making my eye look a little bit lifted and larger than it is. So once again, starting on the outside. And just to talk a little bit about this brand, one of the reasons it attracted me, yes, as a broker, I thought that was incredible that the company already did the work putting all of the best products together. But the other thing I loved about it is that it is a cosmeceutical line, so it's designed to be skincare. So it's a very pure line. And that's important to me because I want to make sure whatever I'm using on myself, but also my clients, is going to make their skin better. So I say that this is a line that's definitely better on the skin than off. And then I just go in with my finger. When you're applying the outer corner of your eyeshadow, kind of a rule is a 45-degree angle from the outer corner of your eye to your brow. You don't want to go beyond that because that can make the eyes look wider, the face look wider, or even sometimes drag it down. So you always want to lift. Think lift. I always like to lift when it comes to the eyes. Okay, and then I'm just going to kind of smudge it out into my brow bone, and then I'm gonna put a lighter color there. Okay, so we're gonna leave that alone. If I need to deepen that at any point, I will. But I'm going to go now into my color, which is going to be the base of like my Glam Smoky Eye. And I'm going to use, I would use the plum in it, but mine disappeared. So I'm going to use more of this kind of grayish lavender purple. It's kind of like a smoky lavender purple, and the color is aubergine. And I'm going to take the same exact brush, and this time I'm going to use that patting motion. And I'm going to use this darker color all over my mobile lid.
So
And then
they
just
look,
go until you're content with the color.
so they look has a light color on the eyelid and night look has a dark, like that.
Mm-hmm. And now you can do a smoky eye. They call it a halo shape, and that you can put the dark in the outer corner, kind of up, and then the dark in the inner corner, and pop a light shade in the middle, which you can do as well. What I do is, I've done that look as well, but I like to pop on like my darkest color for that really like dramatic smoky look, and then I can pop a hint of shimmer just to like pop the eye open a little bit. The reason I like to, got some on my lip. The reason I like to also pat the color in place is now that we're working with darker color or shimmer, we don't want that flying all over my face, our face. So when we pat it on, it helps control the fallout. This is another reason that if I'm doing more of a glam look or I'm working on clients, you can see like, it looks like I ate something as it's smudged on me. I lost my train of thought. Oh, it's another reason why I like to do eyes first and then do like my foundation and concealer, because if there is any fallout, I can just wipe it away and then put my face product on top versus then having to like redo and smear my face product. Does it look like it's all off? I look like I have a mustache. All right, so I've packed on enough color for now. I want to smoke this out even more by using this brown shade in Truffle. I feel like my music just got super loud all of a sudden. Okay. So now outer corner, same as we did the other way. This is just a darker, more pigmented brown. I'm gonna put this on the outside. Smoke out the outer corner, so now we're creating some dimensions. Great. I have this mirror right in front of me. I could be using this mirror, and you can see what I'm doing. And I'm finding that this brush isn't placing as much color as I want, so I'm going to go in. This is a Motives brush. It's more of like a Q-tip shape. The denser the bristles of the brush, the more product it's going to place at one time. The fluffier the brush, the more natural and the lighter the finish is going to be. So I'm going to use a denser bristled brush so that I can place more color. And see how that's already now starting to place more of that brown shade. I'm going to deepen my crease with this color. So I'm just going to follow the natural crease of my eye. I'm not going up into the transition shade. I'm just creating more definition in the crease, which when I open my eye creates a little more drama. And then to blend that, I'm going to go back in with that fluffier brush that I was using. And once again, circular motions. So now it's blending from the purple into the transition. Now, a lot of times when you do this step, you're gonna lose some of the color that you placed on your lid. So I'm going to go back in with the Q-tip brush into that dusty purple color and pack that color back onto this area. And so it kind of goes back into, like I said, don't feel like you can only do something once. You can always come back to it and add or take away. I'm going to take the same color with the Q-tip brush and drag that underneath the eye. And I just want to make sure the line from underneath straight out is nice and even. I'm going to take a Q-tip for that because my fingers are getting a little dirty. So I'm making sure that I have a nice even line. Then taking this brush again and just making sure that I have color out to that. I want a nice even wash of color.
Oh,
Now
wow.
I have a little bit left. There's this color called Shell, I think it is. No, yes, Shell. It's like a shimmery white color in that palette. And I'm going to look for a brush that I can use to place it. Do you want? I'll just use a Q-tip. You would just want to use, because it's a light color, you would just want to use a clean brush for this and something with a smaller head. I'm going to place this right in the inner corner of my eye. To open it up and create a little brightness. Okay, and then lastly, I'm going to take a clean brush again. You can use the color Shell or Birch in that color. It's more of a matte white. And now you can use that to create that highlight underneath the brow bone. And so you see it's just a light shimmer versus it being my entire hood that's kind of shimmery, which is going to draw more attention. The entire, what's considered the hood of my eye, is darker. And then I'm just putting that highlight shade right underneath the brow bone to create some lift. So you can even see now the difference between my left and my right, even though I don't have mascara. Do you see the lift in this eye? It's a little bit higher, a little bit more open. The difference between like the more drama and then the more natural day look. And I think I'm pretty happy. The only other thing I could do is take a little bit of this color in Serene, which is that shimmery taupe. I'm going to use my finger. It's my own palette, but you can use a brush as well. And I'm just going to pop a little bit of that shimmery highlight right in the center of my lid. Not everywhere, but just in the center. Because now when I open my eye, it's just going to create like a pop of iridescent shimmer. Just to add a touch of drama. Okay. So from here, if we needed to clean up or if I had any fallout, I could take a makeup wipe and just remove underneath, and that's going to get rid of all of the color, all of the fallout without messing with your product, which is great. And always look, since I'm using my fingertips are a little dirty, so I'm just, not dirty as in like gross, dirty as in just color on them. So I'm just gonna make sure to keep my fingers away from my face so I don't like smudge product onto me, or I could wipe them off with a makeup wipe. Okay, so from here, I wanna add a little bit more drama to my lash. So you could throw false lashes on if you want. I'm just gonna take a lash curler. Make sure I'm going in and getting all of the lashes without pinching my skin. And I'm gonna press and hold and start to move my way out. So I'm curling the entire length of my lash. You don't have to do this step. I just tend to have lashes that kind of go straight out. If I give them a little bit of curl, it's gonna make them look longer. So once again, you don't have to do this step. I'm just, because I'm going a little more drama, choosing to. Same mascara. And this is the Fiber Lush, but you can use whatever you have in your kit. I like to wipe off the excess so I don't put too much product on it one time. And then I like to make sure I wipe off the tip because that usually gets a lot of product that gathers on it. And then once again, tilting my head back. I like to have a closer mirror to get up close and personal, one that kind of minimizes the amount of times you might stab yourself in the eye, but that also likes to get you really close to the base of the lash so you're getting the whole lash. I start with the base and I wiggle, wiggle, wiggle to kind of build up the volume. Now I'm going to pull out, making sure that I get every bit of that lash. And now you can see already that's, well, I just stabbed myself in the eye. Ah. I created a little bit more thickness now with that lash line. If you do this with your mascara, just take a clean Q-tip. And I like to press it and twist in place. And that kind of helps pick up the color without messing my look too much. If that happens though, and you kind of mess with your shadow, just take your brush and go back over it. Fixed. Okay. So I do a couple layers with this, like I said, just to create more drama. So I want to make my lashes look thicker and longer. And then I pay attention to ones that I need to lengthen. If I want to lengthen them individually, I'll tilt my mascara wand vertically and then go in so that I can pay more detail or more attention to specific lashes. From here, I'll wiggle on the bottom as well. And I feel like everybody just opens their mouth when they do their bottom. I don't know what it is about that. For me, I just want to prevent like crinkling of the eyes and the forehead. So whatever I gotta do to make sure I'm not crinkling any face areas, I do. Okay. There we got some more drama. Ta-da! Any questions about our drama eye? So remember, for any color or shimmer, we're going to use a smaller brush so that we can pack that product into place. And we're going to pat versus wiping so that it doesn't get everywhere. You can do your eye makeup before you do your concealer or foundation if you want, if you're worried about fallout, so you can just wipe it away with your makeup remover wipe. And you always want to keep your color and your shimmer kind of like as a guideline if you're new to your eyelid. And then everything else will get lighter as you move to the top. When it comes to your shimmer highlight products, you just want to hug the curve of your eyeliner, or I mean of your eyebrow, versus doing too much space of your eyelid to keep it from looking draggy. We want to look more like classy and lifted than frosted. And so this is my more dramatic eye. So we have natural and we have drama. Still keeping in that same earth tone. We just added a little bit more of like a smoky lavender color. But you can see how earth tones can keep you looking very natural and similar and smoky, or you can make them look a little bit more drama. So the choice is yours. Any questions on either of any of the products I used or any of the look that I created?
You did a great job explaining. I love it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm glad. Sometimes it feels like my brain's going. I'm like, okay, are the words coming out of my mouth as they're like happening in my brain?
Okay.
All right, ladies. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. Like I said, Vershante will be with us on Thursday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern, doing the same type of look, although she's not going to be doing the same look and she might not be using the same products, although I believe she will be using the Maven's palette. So you can see how her natural and glam can be very different from mine, even using the same palette, which is always fun and exciting. And that's one of the best things about makeup. It's just paint. You can put it on, you can take it off, you can mess it up, you can remove it, you can try new things, you can layer it. Like, there's no wrong, there's just guidelines. And at the end of the day, whatever makes you feel fabulous, rock it out. So thank you, ladies, so much for tuning in. And
Thank you.
you're welcome. Have a happy day.
You too.
too.